Today we're going to see how money moved from representative money with full backing or convertibility to partial convertibility and eventually to zero convertibility to any commodity. The main purpose of this is threefold. First, learning how representative money evolved to become fiat money of today. Second, to dispel the myth that the money supply is limited under a gold standard. In fact, the money supply can still expand and is not limited by the gold supply. Third, to dispel the myth that on any kind of gold standard, you do not need to have trust. In fact, you always need to have trust, threefold trust. First, trust in the government mint maintaining the gold standard by not debasing it. Second, trust the banks to maintain creditworthiness. And third, trust your trading peers that they have not given you counterfeit or fake money. We will look at the gold specie standard, the gold bullion standard, and the reserve currency gold exchange standard, and how these gold standards evolved into today's fiat standard.
1A. Gold standard based on full-bodied specie coin.
Let's start with the gold specie standard. The first kind is where we only have commodity money, that is gold specie coin. Precious metal coins are called specie. A gold or silver pound specie coin is equal to a pound or silver or gold. And they serve as a medium of exchange. Any person can bring their raw precious metal to the government-operated network of mints and have them convert it to specie coin. This gold specie standard, however, can be eroded by debasement via inflation from the state. For instance, the mint takes an increasingly larger cut when converting the raw metals into specie coin. Besides the state, private actors can also counterfeit coins. Thus, the supply of money is only to some extent limited by the supply of commodities. Debasement, inflation, and counterfeiting of money all increase the money supply, even under this very strict gold specie standard. Moreover, you need to trust in the peers that you trade with that they have not given you a counterfeit currency. However, because currency is gold specie coin, I can take a coin and check the commodity for its authenticity independently by myself. However, this does not mean that this pure commodity money setup is the first best for the country or the society as a whole, or for me as an individual money user. Because besides being a store of value, money also needs to be a convenient medium of exchange, for which we have seen heavy precious metals are impractical.
1B. Adding representative money in the form of tokens that are initially fully backed by specie coin or other commodity.
There's a second type of gold specie standard where we now add into our economy, besides the specie coin, representative money that is fully backed by the gold specie coin. The paper money notes can be converted into gold specie coins at the money house or the bank. The bank issues these notes and they are fully backed by commodity money. For instance, imagine a bank first needs to receive a deposit of gold in order to issue you with a paper note that is a certificate of deposit. This means you need to trust the banks that they do not run off with your gold coins. For every 100 paper notes issued by the bank, there need to be 100 gold coins in the bank, hence fully backed. Under this gold specie standard, supply of money is not limited by the supply of gold because of debasement, inflation, and counterfeiting by both banks and the peers that you trade with.
1C. Transition of representative money to only partial commodity backing.
Now let's move to the third and the final type of gold specie standard, when representative money is eroded by only partially backing it with gold specie coin. The state allows banks to issue paper notes without prior deposits of gold specie coin. There may be only 100 gold coins deposited in a bank, but the bank has legally issued 101 or more paper notes. Representative money in this sense is only partially backed by gold. This system works as long as everybody believes it works. Besides the central bank, the issue of representative money are commercial banks, which have a bank charter. Charter means a grant of authority or right. The state recognizes the prerogative of the bank charter company to exercise the rights to create money, literally money out of nothing, because they have not deposited gold coins and yet issue these certificates of deposits. However, the state is the sovereign, that is, it has supreme authority or power. Bank charter holders or banks have a subservient or inferior status to the sovereign state. Besides legal debasement, money supply can also be legally increased by banks. However, the government issue specie coin and its presence means that if I or the people do not trust the bank's paper money, people will run away from the paper money issued by banks and switch to government-minted gold specie coin instead.
2. The gold bullion standard.
Let's move to the second type of gold standard. This is called the gold bullion standard. Bullion is another word for raw gold. Before the presence of this gold specie coin, as a government-issued alternative money, exercised discipline and restraint on commercial banks issuing only partially backed representative money. You think it might be good. However, the bad side for the state is it hinders the ability of the state to tax via seigniorage and therefore indirectly tax people and raise fiscal revenue. Under this new gold bullion standard, specie coins are withdrawn from circulation and are no longer accepted at face value by the state. Free coinage stops. Free coinage means that you can no longer bring your raw gold to the government mint and the mint convert it into gold coin. That's no longer possible. Commodity money, therefore, in this gold bullion standard, the second big type of gold standard, commodity money no longer is a generally accepted medium of exchange. Instead, representative money in the form of paper notes, but now also token coins, which replaced the gold specie coin, are the only generally accepted medium of exchange. These token coins and the paper notes can be converted on demand into raw gold, but no longer into specie gold coins. The result is the following. While a dollar or a pound is made out of material with zero intrinsic value, the dollar or the pound as a general unit of account and standard of value has still a link to the underlying commodity value of the gold raw bullion due to convertibility. However, you as the money user can no longer independently check the money in the sense that you need to trust the promise of either the commercial bank or the central bank that this representative money can be converted into raw gold. Now let's move to the third and the final gold standard.
3. The Bretton Woods standard.
This is called the US dollar global reserve currency gold exchange standard. Sometimes it's also called the Bretton Woods standard. In 1941 in the UK and in 1934 in the United States, this last convertibility of representative money into raw gold was cut and completely stopped for Lao Baixing, if you wish, you and me, consumers, businesses, ordinary citizens. Only governments, that is the national government, and foreign government entities can convert their own national currency directly into raw gold bullion. 10 years later, starting in 1944, at the end of the Second World War, all the countries that joined the so-called Bretton Woods Agreement stopped allowing their own citizens to convert money to gold also. All national governments or foreign governments no longer can directly convert their own local currency to gold. Only governments and only indirectly can they convert currency into raw gold. For instance, if I'm the Japanese central bank or the English central bank or the German central bank, I can, as the government, only convert my yen, pound, Deutschmark first into USD, and then the US Treasury will convert this USD into raw gold bullion. In other words, only the US dollar, no other currency, is fixed directly to gold. And that is at $35, which you can bring in, then you get 1 ounce of gold. In this scenario, the dollar is directly linked to gold, but only for the US government and indirectly for foreign governments. Lao Baixing, normal people cannot convert a dollar or a pound into gold. This system relies on trust in the US government, and this system eventually collapsed in 1971. Now we have concluded our discussion of the 3 different gold standards, and we've seen that money supply is not restricted by the supply of gold.
4. The Fiat standard.
Eventually, after this last gold standard also collapsed, most countries in the world moved to what we call a Fiat standard. In 1971, US President Nixon announced the stop of the convertibility of the United States Treasury, no longer taking US dollars and converting them into gold bullion. This collapse of the Bretton Woods system means any currency, that is the dollar, the pound, becomes pure fiat money. That is no longer representative money because it doesn't represent any gold, any commodity. Then you can ask yourself, why would people accept fiat money if it is not made out of any intrinsic value, or you cannot convert it into anything that it has intrinsic value? One reason is called legal tender law. Legal tender means that the state decrees, that is by fiat, which is the meaning of to decree or to order, to only accept this currency, for instance US dollar in the United States, as a method of payments and discharging obligations. All other forms of currency do not count as money. For instance, if we look at the US dollar, on the US dollar, there's printed that the US dollar is legal tender for all debts, private and public, which means that if you have a private debt in a commercial contract or you bought something from a shop, you are indebted to them because they give you a cup of coffee. You can give them the dollar and they cannot refuse it after they have entered a contract with you. In this setup, under fiat money, typically the central bank issues coins and paper notes. Commercial banks can issue bank account book money and are required by law to convert these coins and paper notes on demand. State fiat is also called chartalist, from charter theory. It argues that this system works only if the state regulates it. Only if the state regulates the behavior of commercial banks, because they can basically print money out of nothing. Although the state is the sovereign authority over the unit of account, in practice the limit placed on commercial banks to create credit money in the form of bank account money that you have in a bank account is not severely limited by this legal requirement of banks needing to convert your bank account money into central bank currency, paper, notes and coins. Today, we increasingly use digital payments like debit and credit cards, mobile banking, or 支付宝 or 微信钱. If we move to an economy without physical cash, like coins and paper, then the money creation by commercial banks can be even greater. And the only money ordinary citizens use is money created by commercial banks, that is private enterprises. In this case, all money is purely digital and created by commercial banks.
One possible future of fiat money, central bank digital currencies.
The central bank, as the state, wants to have sovereign money that it controls. However, people in a physically cashless economy don't have a bank account with a central bank, only with a commercial bank. To keep money sovereign, Central banks are considering to create CBDCs, that is central bank digital cash. There are two main different designs of these CBDCs, all of which is fiat money. First is CBDC account money. You and I, starting from the future, will have an account with the central bank, People's Bank of China or United States Federal Reserve, or, which seems to be the case in China, commercial banks act as a specific intermediary, that is the custodian, to keep my CBDC for me via a commercial bank account that commercial banks keep with the central bank. The second main design is CBDC token money. Digital, fungible tokens that are not linked to any account at any custodian, for instance, the commercial bank or the central bank. There's no specific intermediary that is taking care of or having custody of my money. You have self-custody of money. How could you do this? Via blockchain technology. This new innovation we will look at next.